Have you ever thought that a fleeting conversation in a movie theater lobby could change the fate of an entire business? Logan Brooks, the legendary CEO of Grand Plaza Cinemas while undercover as a janitor, one night accidentally overheard a devastating secret. Two young girls, desperate after their families fell into crisis, were quietly planning to rob the very place they worked. In that moment, Logan faced an impossible decision: expose the truth or choose to believe in people one more time. No one knew that his choice would ignite a historic transformation and breathe new life into an empire teetering on the brink of collapse. Don't look away, because the story you're about to hear won't just keep you on the edge of your seat. It will make you believe. One act of kindness at the right moment can change the fate of thousands. Stay until the end, because the real twist is just getting started. Logan Brooks tightened the brim of his worn-out cap, taking a deep breath before pushing open the heavy doors of Sunrise Vista Theater. Dressed in a rumpled maintenance uniform, no one could have guessed he was the very founder and CEO of this famous movie chain. 25 years of building it from scratch, Logan had once swept floors, sold tickets, even pasted up movie posters by hand. But the larger the company grew, the more he felt himself drifting away from its beating heart. The reports were always flawless. The internal audits glowed with praise. Yet Logan's instincts told him something was deeply wrong. 2 weeks ago, a short anonymous letter had arrived at his office. No signature, no sender. Sunrise Vista is rotting from the inside. If you still care, come to the main branch. That was all it said. But it was enough. For the first time in 10 years, Logan decided to return to the ground floor. Tonight, he wasn't Logan Brooks, the lauded executive on magazine covers. Tonight, he was just Mike, a temp worker with a mop and a mission to observe. As he walked down the dim, popcorn-scented hallway, Logan couldn't help but smile. That smell had never changed. But beneath the familiar sounds, a hurried whisper cut through, pulling him out of his nostalgia. Near the soda machines, two young girls in staff uniforms huddled behind a horror movie poster. Their voices were low but shaking. "Jess, I can't do this. If we get caught, we'll go to jail. Emily, we don't have a choice." Jess's voice cracked. "If I don't pay them, they'll come after my mom." They made it clear. Logan pretended to scrub the floor, ears straining. But stealing from the cash register, Emily gasped. "We just have to do it tomorrow night," Jess whispered urgently. "Rick's on duty. The cameras are still down. This is our only shot." Logan gripped the mop tightly. Rick, the manager of the main branch. A sick feeling churned in his gut. The place he trusted the most was crumbling at its core. Jess hung her head, low voice trembling. "Emily, I swear I don't want to do this. But if I don't, I'll lose everything. Dad's sick. Medical bills are piling up. Mom's working 3 jobs, and it's still not enough. If I don't pay those loan sharks back." A heavy silence settled around them, thicker than the scent of sanitizer in the air. Emily bit her lip, shaking. "All right, I'll help. But if anything goes wrong, I'll take the fall." Logan stood, frozen blood pounding in his ears. Loan sharks, illness, desperation. Kids are pushed into crime just to survive. Wasn't Sunrise Vista supposed to be a place that gave people like them a chance? Hadn't he once sworn no employee under his watch would have to choose between their conscience and survival? Yet, here it was, happening in the very heart of the empire he built. His footsteps felt heavier as he turned away, silently wheeling the mop cart down the hall. He had 24 hours. 24 hours to decide, expose it all and punish them as an example, or find a way to save these desperate souls fighting to stay afloat. The neon lights cast Logan's shadow onto the polished floor, a warped silhouette he barely recognized anymore. Tonight, a silent battle had begun, not between good and evil, but between indifference and compassion. Logan spent most of that night silently observing. In his janitor's uniform, he blended easily into the bustling scene where laughter movie soundtracks and the popping of popcorn created a familiar backdrop. Jess worked at the ticket counter, her face tense even as she forced polite smiles at customers. Emily manned the concession stand, swiftly scooping popcorn into paper tubs, glancing nervously toward the manager, Rick Holloway. Logan watched Rick from a distance. Tall and sharply dressed in an outdated black suit, Rick carried himself with the swagger of someone used to barking orders. He barked at employees over every minor mistake. A smudge on the counter, a greeting. Not cheerful enough, a drink cup placed slightly off-center. Can't do the job. There's the door. Rick growled at a boy who couldn't have been more than 20 after spilling a tray of popcorn. Logan tightened his grip on the mop. The core values he had bled to build, fairness, respect, support for employees, had been reduced to hollow slogans plastered on the walls. And worse, Rick was the weak link at the center of the girls' desperate plan. The next afternoon, Logan returned, still playing the role of Mike the new guy. He deliberately picked a morning shift to better observe Jess and Emily. Inside the small break room, Logan wiped down chairs, keeping a close eye as Jess pulled out her phone to check her bank account. Even with a glance, Logan could see the glaring red numbers, overdue bank loans piling up. A message popped up. Logan caught a glimpse. Pay $8,000 by Thursday, or your kid brother gets a broken leg. Marcus. Logan swallowed hard. This Marcus, clearly a ruthless loan shark, wasn't someone to be trifled with. And Jess, barely 19, was being cornered in the most brutal way imaginable. Emily entered carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. She set one in front of Jess, her voice barely a whisper. I checked. The back hallway camera's still down. Rick hasn't bothered fixing it. Jess gave a sad smile. The office safe's old and busted too. Tomorrow night. Late shift. That's when I'll do it. Jess, are you sure there's no other way? Emily asked, her voice cracking. Jess closed her eyes, leaning her head back against the wall. If there was, I would have taken it. Logan sat there clutching his cleaning rag, heart sinking. Outside, customers laughed and movies played as usual. But inside the walls of Sunrise Vista, a silent tragedy was unfolding minute by minute. That afternoon, Rick called an impromptu staff meeting. Revenue's down 12% this week, Rick announced coldly. From now on, screw up, you're out. No excuses. A boy at the ticket counter timidly raised his hand. Sir, I heard other branches offer bonuses for meeting targets. Rick let out a harsh laugh. That's their business. Here I'm the target. Rick's coarse laughter made Logan's skin crawl. But what shook him even more was when Rick turned directly to Jess. And you, Thompson. 3 shortages this month. Watch yourself. I don't keep losers around. Jess bowed her head silently, fists clenching at her sides. Logan gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay calm. If he acted too soon, he'd lose the chance to expose Rick and save the girls from a terrible mistake. Night fell and the theater dimmed under soft yellow lights. Logan pretended to mop the hallway, watching as Jess and Emily whispered urgently in a hidden corner. 10. 30. Jess murmured. Mike the night guard steps out for a smoke. Then it's just Rick in the office. Emily nodded, clutching a key card tightly in her hand. Logan silently memorized every detail. He had a plan. A risky one, but necessary. Tomorrow night, when Jess and Emily put their desperate plan into motion, Logan would intervene. Not to punish, but to show them that even in a world that seems heartless, there are still people willing to reach out a hand, even when you've lost faith in miracles. The next day, Logan arrived at the theater early once again, wearing the old janitor uniform as if nothing had changed. But inside him, a storm was quietly brewing, ready to erupt. He walked the corridors, ear-sharp eyes noting every movement. Jess and Emily were still working diligently like model employees, greeting guests, selling tickets, scooping popcorn. No one could have guessed that within hours the two girls would attempt something that could ruin their lives forever. Logan also noticed that Rick seemed unusually restless today. The man kept pacing in and out of the office, checking the cash-safe barking orders for a more thorough cleaning. "Remember," Rick growled at the janitorial crew, "there's a surprise inspection tonight. Not a speck of dust on the floors." Logan smirked. "A surprise inspection, huh?" Most likely another excuse for Rick to cover up the maintenance budget skimming a scam Logan, in his role as president of Sunrise Vista, had heard about from other branches. But tonight, Rick had no idea. He was the one about to be inspected. Around 9:00 p.m., the crowds thinned after the final screenings. Logan watched as Jess and Emily exchanged silent glances while cleaning the concessions counter. "You okay?" Emily whispered, her hands trembling as she packed popcorn into tubs. Jess tightened the strap of her apron. No turning back now. Logan made his way backstage, finding a hidden spot to set up a miniature recording device, something the internal security team had rushed to provide that morning. He needed undeniable proof to expose Rick, protect the girls, and save Sunrise Vista from the rot spreading within. While installing the device, he noticed the surveillance camera covering the office safe was still disabled. Rick had deliberately left it broken, an easy way to skim money without getting caught. Logan clenched his fists. His anger now wasn't about profits or corporate reputation. It was the rage of a man who had once been poor, who had watched too many young dreams crushed by a corrupt system. 30 p.m. The clock struck the crucial hour. Logan hid near the ticket counter, pretending to clean as he watched Jess and Emily quietly head toward the office. Only a few late-night customers lingered in the lobby, and Mike, the security guard, had gone to check the projection rooms, right on schedule. Jess swiped her key card. The office door clicked open silently. Emily stood watch outside, gripping the internal walkie-talkie tightly. Logan moved quietly after them, every nerve taut. Inside the office, Jess knelt before the safe. Her hands shook violently as she entered the combination numbers she had memorized over months. 5924D. Jess whispered, each digit heavy as a stone. A faint click sounded. The safe door swung open, revealing stacks of cash money Rick was supposed to have deposited to corporate accounts, but had clearly siphoned off. Jess reached out fingertips, brushing the money, but froze. Flashes of her frail little brother waiting anxiously in a hospital room crossed her mind. At that same moment, heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. Emily's urgent whisper crackled through the walkie-talkie. "Rick's coming back. Hurry." Jess stood frozen, her eyes locked on the cash trapped between survival and self-destruction. Logan knew there was no time left. If Rick caught them, Jess and Emily wouldn't just lose their jobs, they could face jail time, their futures obliterated. Without hesitation, Logan stepped out from his hiding spot. He spoke in a low, commanding voice, just loud enough for Jess. "Put the money down. Trust me. There's another way." Jess whipped around, her face stricken with panic. Who are you?" Rick's footsteps grew louder, closer. Logan pulled off his baseball cap, revealing his true face. No longer Mike the janitor, but Logan Brooks, the owner and founder of Sunrise Vista Cinemas. "I'm someone who can save you," he said urgently. "But you have to trust me." Right now, in that suspended moment, everything hung in the balance. Jess looked into Logan's eyes, saw no anger, no judgment, only deep understanding. She nodded. Out in the hall, Rick Holloway reached the office door. But instead of catching two girls stealing, he found a man standing there, mop in hand. "Who the hell are you?" Rick barked. Logan smiled, a cold, deliberate smile. "Me. I own this place." Rick's face turned ghostly pale. The real battle had just begun. The air in the room grew thick. Rick Holloway stood frozen at the doorway, his face pale as if he had seen a ghost. Jess and Emily were stiff as statues, while Logan, calm and steady, looked like a man who had orchestrated everything all along. Adathaus, the owner. Rick stammered, his voice cracking with shock. Logan nodded slowly, advancing toward him each step, like a hammer blow shattering the false mask Rick had worn for so long. That's right, Rick. Logan Pierce, CEO of Sunrise Vista. And I've seen everything you've done to this theater with my own eyes. Rick swallowed hard, frantically glancing around for an escape route. But two security guards, secretly positioned by Logan, now blocked both ends of the hallway, their eyes locked on him. There was no way out. Logan motioned for Jess and Emily to leave first. "You two go. Let me handle the rest," he said quietly. The girls nodded wordlessly, tears still clinging to their lashes. Emily clutched Jess's hand, pulling her away, as if afraid that even a second's delay might collapse everything they had left. When the door closed, only Logan and Rick remained facing off. The silence was suffocating. Finally, Logan spoke, his voice low but heavy with authority. "Tell me, Rick, what exactly did you think you were running here?" Rick tried to recover his usual swagger, shrugging. "Just boosting efficiency, cutting costs. You know modern management?" Logan let out a cold laugh. "Modern slashing employee rights, threatening your staff, ignoring safety issues, and pocketing maintenance budgets. That's what you call modern management." Rick's face flushed, but he pressed on desperately. I was doing what it took to hit targets. The company needs profits, right? Not by selling out our integrity." Logan growled, his gaze sharp as a blade. He pulled out his phone, flipping through a series of files. Audio recordings, images, detailed evidence of Rick's misconduct, from pocketing repair funds to exploiting underage workers and forcing unpaid overtime. Rick stared at the proof, his lips trembling. You won't go public with this," he whispered. "If this gets out, Sunrise Vista's reputation will be ruined. Stock prices will tank." Logan's mouth tightened, his words cutting like a knife. "You're wrong. It's people like you who destroy us from within. Getting rid of you is how we save this company and the decent people you've bled dry." Rick faltered, his voice breaking. I can change. Give me another chance." Logan's gaze was icy. "Your chances ended the moment you made two desperate girls believe stealing was their only way to save their families." Rick collapsed into a chair, burying his face in trembling hands. Logan turned toward the door but paused, looking back one last time. "Tomorrow you'll be served with a court summons. Get ready, Rick. This time, you're going to be held accountable." Outside in the hall, Jess and Emily stood nervously peeking around the corner. When they saw Logan emerge, their faces were full of uncertainty. He approached them gently, placing a hand on Jess's shoulder. "You don't have to worry anymore. Rick won't be hurting anyone else." Jess opened her mouth to speak, but instead broke down, sobbing away all the fear she had bottled up for so long. Logan gave her shoulder a comforting pat. "We're going to fix this, starting by helping you fix yourself." Emily looked at him, her voice trembling. "And us? What about what we did? Will we still?" Logan shook his head gently. "No one's getting arrested. You're not criminals. You're victims of a broken system, and now we're going to change that." He locked eyes with them, his voice firm. "But remember, you also have a responsibility. We don't excuse the mistakes, but we can choose to make them right." Jess nodded through her tears. Emily whispered, "We're ready to start over." Logan smiled. "Then let's start tomorrow." That night, when everything finally quieted down, Logan sat alone in the director's office, a room Rick had turned into his private kingdom. He gazed out across the vast empty lobby where Jess and Emily had once whispered the most desperate plan of their lives. Logan knew exposing Rick was just the first step. There was still so much work ahead to rebuild Sunrise Vista from the ashes. But for the first time in months, he felt a deep, unwavering peace. A new chapter was about to begin, and he would be the one to write it with compassion, justice, and a steadfast belief in the goodness of people. The next morning, the atmosphere at Grand Plaza Cinema had completely shifted. Gone were the wary glances and exhausted sighs. Instead, there were curious looks, a sense of hope, and a bit of confusion as employees received an urgent email summoning them to a meeting called by the owner himself. Jess and Emily sat close together in the very back row of the conference room, their hands tightly clasped as if drawing courage from each other. They whispered, "What do you think he's going to do to us?" Jess asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know." Emily swallowed hard. "But I don't think he's a bad person." The door opened. Logan Pierce walked in. Gone was the janitor's uniform. Gone, too, were the flashy suits of a CEO. He wore simple jeans and a white rolled-up shirt, looking more like a father coming home to meet his children after a long journey. He stood at the front of the room, his gaze sweeping over the still confused faces. Then he smiled a warm, genuine smile. "Good morning, everyone," Logan began. "Some of you may have figured out, I'm not actually part of the cleaning crew." A ripple of quiet laughter broke the tension in the room. Logan continued, "I'm Logan Pierce, founder and owner of Sunrise Vista Cinema. And the reason I've been here these past few days disguised as one of you was because I needed to know the truth." A small murmur ran through the crowd. "I used to think our system was working just fine. But I was wrong. Very wrong." His voice dropped lower. "I witnessed things that should never happen. Exploitation, intimidation, mistreatment. And worst of all, I saw good people being pushed so far that they nearly lost themselves." Logan's eyes locked onto Jess and Emily. The two girls bowed their heads, bracing for the reprimand they thought was coming. But Logan only nodded gently, as if acknowledging something deeper. "Yes, you made mistakes. But the bigger mistake was mine for letting the system rot without realizing it." The room grew heavy with emotion. Today, Logan declared, "We start again." He motioned for the HR staff to step forward, handing out new agreements to each employee. Rick Holloway has been terminated. Effective immediately, every policy he enforced is null and void. A wave of relieved sighs filled the room. Logan pressed on. "We're rebuilding Grand Plaza Cinema based on our original values: respect, fairness, support." He pointed to a whiteboard behind him. A 20% increase in minimum wages. Emergency medical support for employees and their families. An internal scholarship program for those pursuing education or skills training. An anonymous hotline for reporting injustices, ensuring whistleblower protection. People exchanged stunned glances, hardly able to believe their ears. Logan smiled. "And we're also launching the Second Chance Fund, a program to support anyone facing hardships just like Jess and Emily." The two girls burst into tears, overwhelmed with emotion. Someone from the front row stood up and began clapping. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted into thunderous applause, along with chants of, "Thank you, Mr. Pierce." After the meeting ended, Logan pulled Jess and Emily aside for a private conversation. "You're not getting fired," he said immediately, cutting off the fear in their eyes. Jess choked out. "But we don't deserve this." Logan shook his head. "Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how you rise from them." He handed them each an envelope. "These are official invitations. I want you both to join our new management training program at Sunrise Vista." Jess's mouth dropped open. Emily nearly dropped her envelope. "We need people who have walked through hardship to help us build a workplace that truly understands and cares." He gave them both a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "You're far stronger than you realize. Now, help us do the right thing." The girls broke into tears again, but this time, tears of hope. As Jess and Emily stepped out of the office, the early morning sunlight poured down the wide hallways. Those golden beams felt like seeds of hope taking root deep within them. For the first time in a long time, Jess whispered, "Maybe. This really is a new beginning." Emily squeezed her hand, smiling. "Not maybe. Definitely." After that fateful meeting, Grand Plaza Cinema felt as if it had finally awakened from a long, heavy sleep. Logan didn't just change policies on paper. He rolled up his sleeves and began transforming every detail of the operation, starting with the people. During the first week, he personally joined Jess and Emily in conducting internal interviews to select a new management team. Gone were the dry requirements like years of management experience or sales achievements. The most important qualification Logan set was simple yet powerful: the ability to empathize and the integrity to stay true. And the result? New faces, mostly longtime employees who had been overlooked and dismissed under Rick's reign, now sat in decision-making positions. Jess was appointed as the new head of customer service, while Emily became the lead trainer for new hires. On the day they received their new roles, both could barely contain their emotions. "Are we really capable of doing this?" Jess whispered, gripping her shiny new name badge tightly. Logan smiled warmly. "You've already passed the toughest tests, the ones no training course can teach: loyalty, courage, and compassion." He handed each of them a copy of the new initiative, a training program focused on listening skills and customer care, scholarships for employees or their families facing hardships, creation of an internal support group, a safe space for employees to seek help without fear of judgment. Grand Plaza was no longer just a movie theater. It was becoming a true home. 3 weeks later, Jess stood in the center of the main lobby holding up a large announcement board. Grand Plaza Family Day. Open to all staff and their families. That afternoon, the cinema didn't just welcome moviegoers. It opened its doors to the families of every employee. Laughter echoed through the halls. Children played, parents chatted, and the staff busily handed out popcorn and drinks. But this time, the smiles on their faces were genuine. Emily led her mother, a petite woman with a kind smile and tired eyes shaped by years of hardship, through the colorful lobby. "So, this is where you work?" her mother asked, voice trembling with emotion. "And the place that's going to change my life?" Mom Emily whispered back. At another corner, Jess knelt down to adjust her younger brother's jacket, the same boy who had once spent months hospitalized with a serious illness. Now he was running around the lobby, his face radiant, as if the darkness of the past had never touched him. Meanwhile, upstairs in his modest office, Logan Pierce sat behind his old oak desk, the only piece of furniture he hadn't replaced after the major overhaul. In front of him was a thick report titled 1 Month Improvement Overview. The numbers exceeded every expectation. Employee turnover rate dropped by 45%. Customer satisfaction ratings increased by 52%. Revenue grew by 18% even after introducing discounted ticket programs for low-income families. Logan smiled faintly. He understood this wasn't about promotions or marketing gimmicks. It was because happy employees create genuine experiences and customers can feel it. Suddenly, a soft knock on the door. Jess and Emily stepped in, each holding a small bouquet of flowers. We just wanted to thank you, Jess," said her voice trembling. Emily added, "Not just for forgiving us, but for believing we deserved another chance." Logan rose from his chair, walking over to them. "You two taught me a lesson more important than any business report. Sometimes saving a person isn't about giving them a job. It's about giving them their faith back." He looked them both straight in the eyes, serious and steady. From now on, help me spread that across all of Sunrise Vista." Jess and Emily nodded, their eyes bright. No longer trembling girls full of fear, but young women ready to ignite hope wherever they went. That evening, as the theater dimmed the lights for a special free screening for staff families, Logan stood quietly by the entrance. He watched the sea of faces, the sparkling eyes of children, the joyous laughter of parents. And in the middle of all those smiles, he saw the future. A future built on trust, kindness, and second chances. Grand Plaza finally truly living up to its name. A plaza where dreams are reborn. A month after the grand rebuilding, Sunrise Vista Grand Plaza had not only come back to life, it had become a symbol for the entire community. Logan Pierce now spent more time at the theater not as a distant hidden owner, but as a real member of the family. Every day, he wore a simple shirt joining the team to inspect the seating test, the sound system, or just stand behind the concession stand, scooping popcorn. That quiet presence slowly spread a new spirit. Here, no one was just a small cog in a giant machine. One afternoon, while checking the employee bulletin board, Logan noticed a new note pinned up. Dream Corner. Write down your dream here. Let Grand Plaza help make it come true. Below it, dozens of colorful sticky notes overlapped like feathers on wings. A young projectionist dreamed of studying film directing. A teenage cashier wished for a laptop to pursue graphic design. A janitor hoped to enroll in evening English classes. Logan stood there reading each dream, his eyes suddenly stinging. Years ago, he too had dreamed quietly from a small dark corner in an old dusty cinema back home. Without hesitation, he called Jess and Emily to gather all the dreams. "Make a plan," he said. "Every quarter we'll select 5 dreams. The company will fund them." Jess widened her eyes. "But the cost." Logan raised his hand to stop her. "The greatest cost isn't money. It's when we let hope die inside someone's heart." The room fell into a deep, reverent silence at the simple, powerful truth in his words. That evening, during a leadership meeting, Logan announced a new initiative. Project Light. Illuminating through the cracks. Each employee would have the right to nominate a coworker facing hardship or showing special potential. The company wouldn't just offer financial support, it would provide soft skills, workshops, life skills training, and a one-on-one mentoring program, pairing veteran staff with new hires. Those who once struggled in darkness would now be the ones guiding others toward the light. Those who almost gave up would now be the ones handing out hope. Emily was so moved, she nearly burst into tears when she was entrusted with coordinating the program. Jess proposed expanding the Dream Corner into a monthly workshop where employees could share their progress and inspire one another. Project Light was born amidst an air of excitement and warmth that filled every corner of Grand Plaza. And then the miracles began to unfold. A month later, Lily, the petite cashier who had dreamed of studying design, proudly showed off her very first laptop, a gift from the Light Fund. Jason, a technician, won a scholarship for a semi-professional filmmaking course, already planning his first short film to be shot right inside Grand Plaza. And Sarah, once the janitor Rick had looked down upon, now confidently stood at the front of the room, teaching English skills to the new staff. Hallway walls, once bare and cold, were now covered with photos of dreams fulfilled, turning the once sterile theater into a vibrant living museum of small, genuine miracles. One weekend evening, as Logan was inspecting the lighting system, he received a text. "Please come to Auditorium 3 immediately." His heart skipped, but when he opened the door, he froze in place. The entire Grand Plaza staff had gathered inside. On the giant screen, words appeared. "Thank you for not just changing a theater, but changing our lives." Jess stepped onto the small stage microphone, trembling in her hand. "Mr. Pierce," She began, voice thick with emotion over these past months. "You haven't just taught us how to serve customers. You've taught us how to love ourselves again, to believe in our worth, and to dare to dream." Emily took the mic next. "We used to be people no one believed would amount to anything. But because of you, we now know even the smallest light can ignite the whole sky." One by one, employees came forward offering Logan small gifts. A framed group photo, a scrapbook filled with thank you notes, an old movie ticket, a memento from the first free screening after the rebuilding. Logan couldn't hold back his emotions. He hugged each of them, no longer an owner and his staff, but human beings sharing the same journey. That night alone in his office, Logan opened the scrapbook. Each page told a story. Each face shone like a star. He slowly penned a line into his work journal. "If there ever comes a day when I no longer run Grand Plaza, I want this place to forever be a home where anyone can believe they deserve a second chance." Outside the window, the cinema lights shimmered softly like a sky full of tiny stars. Stars born from the cracks in broken hearts, now shining stronger than ever. The following summer, Grand Plaza hosted a very special event, Dream Day, a day dedicated to employees and their families to look back on the incredible journey they had taken together. The Grand Hall was draped with warm golden lights. Walls were lined with photos capturing unforgettable moments over the past year. From the first training under the new management to the day Jason received his award for his debut short film, children ran laughing between game booths. Veteran and new employees gathered around cozy buffet tables, swapping stories and laughter, reliving the hardships they had once overcome together. On the small stage, Jess stepped up holding the microphone, her eyes shimmering with emotion. 1 year ago, she began this place was just an old, tired movie theater. But thanks to each and every one of you, each a small light, we turned Grand Plaza into a true home. Thunderous applause filled the hall. Emily continued. "And today we have a special announcement. A new scholarship program. The Dream Grant will be awarded every year to an employee or a family member who shows outstanding achievement in education or personal development." The crowd erupted in cheers and excitement. Standing quietly at the back, Logan smiled warmly. He didn't want to be the center of attention tonight. He just wanted to quietly witness the seeds of hope growing into a vibrant forest. As the ceremony neared its end, Jason, now head of the media department, invited Logan to the stage. After a brief hesitation, Logan stepped up and took the microphone. The entire room fell silent. He scanned each faces that had once been filled with doubt and fear, now radiant with confidence. Then he spoke, his voice deep and steady. "I once thought success was building the biggest theaters making the highest profits." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "But then I realized true success is building a place where people feel they belong. A place where even the smallest dream has a chance to grow." He smiled gently. "Grand Plaza doesn't just show movies. We tell stories. And today, the greatest story we have is all of you." Applause rang out long and heartfelt, echoing throughout the hall. That night after the event ended, Logan didn't leave right away. He sat alone in Theater 1, the very first cinema he ever owned, the place where it had all begun. On the screen, a soft slideshow played old images. The opening day ceremony, the first free screening for underprivileged children, and the faces of employees who had grown and changed with time. Logan smiled. He knew his time with Grand Plaza would eventually come to an end. But the legacy he and this incredible team had built, a spirit of compassion, trust, and resilience, would live on. From his shirt pocket, Logan pulled out a small slip of paper and scribbled a simple note. "Light someone else's dream and you'll find your own light." He placed the note carefully into the Dream Corner mailbox, a small gift for the next generation. Then he quietly walked away, his heart lighter than it had been the first time he had dared to dream. Years later, Grand Plaza had expanded into a network of theaters across many states. Under every glowing marquee were the words, Grand Plaza, where every story deserves to be heard. And in a quiet corner of each cinema, the Dream Corner remained. A place where messages, hopes, and new stories continued to be written every single day. There, whether you were a janitor, a cashier, or a future filmmaker, everyone believed in one thing. Every dream, no matter how small, deserves to be nurtured. And those who help light the dreams of others are the greatest hearts of all. When the last theater lights dimmed, Grand Plaza was no longer just a movie theater. It had become a place where dreams took flight, where those who had once been lost found their second chance. And it all began with one person who chose to listen at the very moment everyone else chose to turn away. Logan Brooks didn't just save his company. He saved faith in kindness, in compassion, in the belief that goodness still had a place in a complicated world. If you believe that every person deserves a second chance, if you believe even the smallest act of kindness can change an entire system, share this story, because somewhere out there someone might desperately need to hear it. Grand Plaza Cinemas, where every story has the chance to rewrite its ending.